people matter. Like, we're in this age of automation and processes and systems.
That's something to talk about right
there.
there.
But, man, people really, really matter. In this age of automation and AI and systems and, quote-unquote, trying to fast-track stuff, people still matter.
Yeah.
So, as we're discussing all this, and thank you again for agreeing to be on the show, especially the stuff that you and I are working on, the importance of people has come back up in my forefront, my purview, if you will. And we're in this age of automation and systems and AI and, essentially being able to do things while not being present. It's all fine and dandy, but people still matter. Like, it takes people to get things done. I remember one time you said, like, Ryan, like, it's amazing. We look around and all the things we work on, and you're like, how did mankind ever get anything done when you're dealing with so many people?
Yep.
And it really, really matters. You and I have talked about this on the show before. It really, really matters who you spend your time with, who you talk to, like the tribe, if you will. You've got to be in the same stratosphere, let alone atmosphere or room or environment. You've got to be in the right area to where you're amongst those who they don't have to quote unquote think like you do, but they've got to have at least the same attitude.
That's right.
They at least have to have that. So, and if you don't have that, like, you're really swimming upstream.
I want to dig in on that.
I do too, and this is an open discussion because I think we're vibing here. But with what Wes was saying in terms of middlescence, and conjoining that with people matter, I would say I want to play devil's advocate for a moment here, right? Just for the context of the conversation. Do people will always matter because obviously people create the technology that does the AI systems,
opportunities, money. There's no money or opportunity without people.
100%.
Yeah.
But my question to both of you gentlemen is that a level of thinking from our generation and above? Because when you get into the whatever, I don't even know the generation names, but like the Gen Xers, I think.
Nope, we're Xers.
Gen
Z.
Yeah.
Gen Alpha now is the new generation.
So there we go.
Gosh.
So Gen Alphas and all these they only will know processes, systems, AI, etc. I'm curious to hear from you guys. Will the attitude of people matter still matter?
It has to at a certain extent, right? There are some things, yes, you can automate and put systems in place to where it, just in the spirit of efficiency, it makes things easier on people, yes. But when it comes to presenting an idea or gathering the information or, God forbid, having a regular human-to-human conversation, just a simple talk, hey, here are the facts, said person digest the facts and they have feedback or questions, you still have to have a certain level of humanity and the presence of humanity in the process.
But that's what we believe. Because I let me be very clear. I do not disagree with either one of you on this, right?
Absolutely.
But in this devil's advocate chair, right? You've got some 14, 15-year-old kid they only know how to program and create algorithms. Like, I don't need to know Wes. I don't need to know Mo.
Well, what happens is then you get the guy who just got sentenced to 25, 30 years, the Bitcoin guy or whatever. Like, he had everything probably so systemized and automated to where the people who he got all that money from fell into that trap of just like, this guy's just got the whole system for us. They just probably thought, well, we don't even have to worry about dealing with quote unquote him. But if you really think about it, they invested in him, not necessarily the systems.
No, they invested in the systems because of the results that it was producing.
But it took a human to bring said systems and results to their palate.
Sure, but aren't you talking about like communication and interaction with other humans? Because I think that where we're going it's more, I don't want to say siloed, but like you're in the confines of your own mind.
So let's talk about this for a second because I think this touches on it. So somewhere along the line, I grew up and somebody packed this way of thinking into my brain, and I don't know where it came from or how it got there, but the thinking was that I don't have to like you and you don't have to like me for us to be able to work together and achieve fantastic results, right? If you show up and you're a professional and you do your job, and I show up and I'm a professional and I do my job, we should get pretty darn near the results that we anticipate if we just show up and do what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it, right? And that worked for me for a very long time, right? Like I worked with a lot of people that I didn't love, to a means to an end. And I uphold my end of the bargain, you uphold your end of the bargain, things work out fine. What I've learned since then is that you get along in your life, people start to gravitate toward working with the people that they like working with. And it doesn't matter how good of a deal you put in front of that person, or if you show up and do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it, if they don't like you.
Yep.
And so tying back into that human element that you're talking about, people matter.
They do.
People will go the extra mile for people that they like. But I hear what you're saying. Like
that's
in the
our
world,
generation, right?
It's the same way even among the kids, man. The younger kids, like at some point they end up working with the people that they like. They even in a world of automation and AI, unless they're working for an audience of one, they will gravitate toward doing deals with and working with and creating businesses with and developing curriculums with and whatever it is that they pursue in life. They're going to gravitate toward working with people that they like.
I think it's really based on industry, right? Like,
even if you put a room of 10 computer nerds together, everybody with their backs to each other, staring at a computer screen, at some point they're going to have to interface with each other, and they're going to pair off just like you've seen in the Survivor series. They're going to start kicking people out of the group, people who can't code as fast as them, people who don't think as fast as them, people who don't agree with the way that the algorithm should work. There's always going to be that human element, always going to be that.
It's interesting. I don't watch a ton of TV. I'll watch, my Mavs if I'm not at the game, and I have maybe 4 or 5 shows that I watch, but I don't typically watch a lot of shows. However, what I do enjoy doing is kind of going back and binging on shows. So right now I'm watching Billions. Again.
I love that show.
Billions, man, I fucking fantastic.
It ended terrible, by the way.
Don't do that.
I won't tell you.
Don't do that.
I won't tell you.
Mo,
I won't tell you
how I feel
how.
about that.
Yeah. Do not spoil his endings.
I will not.
All right, so my point in bringing that up is that I'm watching Billions. I'm on season 6. It's 7 seasons, and I'm seeing a lot of tech involved.
Yep.
I've been in the tech space like briefly, so I'm not a techie. I'm not a computer nerd or know how to code or anything like that. But I want to highlight that what I've seen and what I believe to be true, especially with generations below us or younger than us. I don't want to say below, younger than us. They are so locked into that computer screen. Yep. I do believe that there will always be, human interaction and relationships that will always have to exist. But I do also, in the same breath, I do also believe that gap is shrinking to where everything is, to what you were saying earlier, AI driven. 200 years from now, I don't know if what you're saying will be true. We won't be alive to see it, but I'm very curious what that human interaction would look like.
A lot of
And that's
assumptions
kind of
go
what
into
I'm thinking.
200 years.
Huh?
Instead of a lot of assumptions go into 200
Oh
years.
yeah, I mean, hell, technology moves so fast.
Yeah.
I saw an interview with Draymond Green and Mark Cuban the other day, right?
Michigan State.
There you go, Michigan's. It used to be, you could say 10, 15 years from now.
Yep.
That has shrunk to maybe 3.
Yeah.
Maybe 3.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
Right. Because of the how rapid it's moving.
Yeah.
So if it's at this pace right now in 2024, in 22-24, that's why I'm curious and question.
Elon Musk is trying to put that chip in your head.
I do question though, like how much human interaction and activity will be. I mean, I think it always has to be there. So I don't want to be naive and like pontificate that it will never be there.
Yep.
But that margin will be so slim.
Yeah. Could be.
So
you guys both have kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Daughters, girl dads.
Yeah, all girl dads.
All girl
Me too.
dads.
So my daughter's 13.
I got a 14-year-old.
Your daughter's 6.
5, going on 25.
So, gosh, before my daughter was born and I was like making plans for college, right? Setting up the 529 fund, all of those things. I was thinking, I'm going to train this little girl up. She's going to be an executive by the time she's 15. She's going to be ready to roll. And to your point, like how fast things are moving, she's 13 now, and I don't know how to direct her anymore. I don't know if college makes sense anymore.
Whew,
AI?
There's 2 episodes right there that you just said.
There are 4 degrees right now that I think are probably still worthwhile right now. 4 that when you go to school and graduate, you can pay back your student loans, or if you don't have student loans, could probably maybe afford to buy your first house. 4 degrees.
Let me guess. 4 degrees or 4 professions?
4 professions.
Okay. Law?
Not even one of them.
Okay. Medicine?
Medicine for sure, one of them.
Okay. Tech?
Yep, IT, information systems, tech, whatever, that's 2.
I got a 5-year-old. Y'all got me beat. Go ahead.
Engineering,
yeah. You'd have to have a degree for engineering.
finance, or accounting.
I don't think you need a degree for finance. You
You
need education. You don't need a degree.
do need an education for sure, but if you get a finance or an accounting degree, you can get out and get a job that's going to pay you.
There's not a job that exists. There's not a business that exists, that doesn't have to deal with finance.
It doesn't need somebody crunching numbers.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, but
So-
you don't think law?
Man, I know lawyers that freaking are starving.
But you have to have a degree.
They're ambulance chasers. Is that degree worth anything? There are
Well,
so
that's
many.
That's a different.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
There are 4 degrees that are worth anything when you come out.
Yeah.
There are so many of them that are just 4 years of good times, or 5 most likely.
I and especially since we all kind of operate, and y'all are more entrenched than I am with real estate, but I don't believe that education is what it was, or is as needed as when we were growing up.
I mean,
right?
Google's creating courses now to train people so that they can go work for Google. Yeah. Wild.
I don't know if it's the quote unquote education. It's the real world experience.
Yep.
And
That's
somebody's
education,
going
though.
it's a form of education. Somebody will probably create a curriculum, for lack of a better term at the moment, something along the lines that encompasses, hey, here's just my course on just real life experiences in whatever related field. That's
Well,
what
they have
you
that.
say
They
that
have that all
'cause-
day long. They have white papers and
It's funny that you say that because the professor at Michigan State that I told you is my mentor, he didn't have a master's degree. He didn't have a PhD. In fact, he just finished his undergraduate degree probably 12 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And he was a professor.
He was a professor of practice. So Michigan State figured out that they had a whole bunch of science projects that they called professors who had never worked in the real world ever. And students were starting to be like, yeah, what you're saying sounds okay.
Theoreticals.
You're right. But they wanted to hear from somebody who had done it.
Yeah.
The difference between theory and application.
Serial entrepreneur, lived in Tom Izzo's neighborhood, had a basketball court inside his house. Didn't need a college education until his kids were starting to graduate from college, and one of them said, "Wow, Dad, I'm going to be the first person in our house to get a college education with a degree." And he was like, "Hell, if you are." I know. We went to the dean of the business school and was like, "Look, I've got this number of credits. I'd like to get a degree." And they were like, he told me this story less than a year ago. He was like, yeah, I met with them, and he was like, what books are you reading right now? And this guy's smart as they come, right? Like, he's always reading something, and he dropped a handful of the books. He was like, okay, you take these 3 classes, we're gonna get you a
diploma.
And yeah.
Yeah, I've been on this kick for probably 3 or 4 years. I'm torn. I was dumping money into my daughter's 529, but I'm very troubled by doing that because I don't think that it's necessary.
I'm not fully funding my daughters.
I'm not either. It'll be all through real estate or businesses.
That's exactly what I decided. We've got multiple rental properties, and those will become her. But
and if I need to cash that out,
even more interesting. So my family owns a coffee shop, and her papa, my father-in-law, is coming up on 70.
He's young.
He looks great.
He's young.
He looks great for 70. But I'm like, there's a real scenario where my daughter, she just takes over the coffee shop. She runs some real estate stuff on the side,
and gets real world experience. And the reality of that whole scenario is she'll have more flexibility than all of her colleagues that may or may not go off to college. She'll be setting other people's schedules. She already knows what the coffee shop makes and what her income should be. If she knows how to grow that
passive income
thing.
through real estate.
Exactly. So,
and I'm sure, not putting this on you, but I'm sure you've got some life insurance set aside, so she's going to be well taken care of.
She'll be fine.
Yeah.
She'll be fine. But the point of the matter is, like, now college becomes just a training ground for growing up.
But why do we need that?
It's probably not necessary.
Well,
the network.
I was going to say, on one hand, you can say it's not necessary.
You go to schools like USC, Notre Dame, SMU. These networks are invaluable.
Sure, I went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vandy is
so,
a great
but the relationships, the business relationships that you meet become networks.
Yeah.
And they forge just the same way.
It's
so
true.
Again, I am certainly devaluing college 100%.
When you've got teachers these days who are telling their kids, don't you let AI write that paper for you because I'll know. That's the sign that they don't know. If the kids can have basically their work done for them using ChatGPT or some other software, like, what is the value there?
So on one hand, yeah, we are probably getting to that stage in life where it's like, okay, how valuable is college? But just from like you said, training ground for growing up, just like a pure social skill standpoint. Because what happens is, when we talk about all the time athletics, like, okay,
time management.
What's that?
Time management.
Yeah, that and just the ability. I talk to you all the time about being able to adapt and adjust in whatever environment you're in. If you grow up your entire life, you're from your school age to the time you graduate, and like, I'm only used to dealing with kids in my little bubble in Texas or Louisiana or Florida or wherever it is you grow up at.
Yep.
But then you get into the real world, and you know what? If you go corporate, your executive might be from Oregon, and his outlook on things and how he does business and how he manages people might be completely foreign to what you're used to.
Sure.
You need to have these social skills to be able to understand that this person is not like me. Yeah. How is it that I can I want to use the word maneuver, but how is it that I can
Operate.
That's the word. How is it that I can operate in order to still be efficient at my job and get an understanding of who it is that I work for / with, to where I can keep the party going versus, oh my gosh, I'm from Texas and my boss is from Vermont. I don't know how to talk to this guy.
Right.
Yeah, but I
Like
think
you can't live life like that.
I think it's first. Let me understand this. Are you saying that college should be necessary, or people do need it?
I think we're getting to a point to where, depending on your pursuits in life, you're still going to need it.
I vehemently disagree, in particular because what you're talking about is growing up. You know, back when we went to school, you leverage those 4, maybe 5 years, maybe 6 years to grow into who you're supposed to be, right? Build relationships, et cetera, et cetera. But that was our experience. We don't have a different experience. We did not go to college, right? Or even if you took a what do they call it? A
sabbatical?
No, they call it something year, a gap year.
Gap year.
Yeah. Even if you take a gap year and you do life for a year and then go to college, like that's still not the same. I'm arguing, or my stance is that you can get those same life experiences, same connections, same education by being out in the real world.
I think colleges, universities they're shaking in their boots right now. I have a brother-in-law who's a professor at Pepperdine, and he told me probably 10 years ago that universities, like, there's a bubble right now. 10 years ago, he said that. There's a bubble right now in the cost of education relative to what you get for that. So I just read an article today that there are some Ivy League schools that are $95,000 a year to go there now.
Good Lord.
When I went to school, Vanderbilt was $38,000 a semester. I don't know what it is now.
I shudder to think.
But I would rather my child or children go get a job and make $40,000, gain real life, real world, real business experience, not be in debt.
Yep.
They won't be, but not be in debt, coming out, with $150,000 to $200,000 to only land a job that's going to make you probably by that point $60,000 a year, right? As a starting point, depending on if it's a specialized, industry or what have you. But all that being said, why not go get your life experience, get your business, your real world experience, and make your 40 to 60 grand, and with no debt.
What you guys are doing right now, I think, is creating an environment in a network, in a group of people that is going to make it feasible for your girls to do exactly that, because that'll be able to introduce her to a couple people that are going to open a few doors. And there is a scenario with just what you guys are doing right now. College may or may not be necessary.
Which again goes back to what I'm saying. So let's just say, obviously Mo's my partner and you guys are in cahoots and we forge a great relationship, and 10 years from now, my daughter's looking to get involved in real estate, and I hit you up and I'm like, Wes.
Sure.
And of course you're going to be like, yeah, I got you. Like, what begets the need to have an education?
Yeah.
Your parents or whomever, your guardians have kind of forged that path for you, and it should be taken, right? It should be walked upon by the incumbent, right? Because that's otherwise outside of the current leverage and business networks that we're building on our own. But like, what's the purpose?
Yeah,
like we all are doing this for the ones behind us.
Yep.
Other than the intrinsic value that we have to bestow upon ourselves, right? But we're doing it for our legacies.
Yep, I love that.
100%, man. I love this conversation. This is.
I could keep you guys here all night long.
Let's go. I don't know if your wife would appreciate that.
She already knows. I have a good friend named Aaron. Shout out to Aaron Rice. I I told my wife and my good friend Aaron on my tombstone, I want it to say, so many thoughts, so little time.
There we go. That's actually pretty good.
I could stay here and talk with you guys all night long.
So I love this idea of middle lessons because I do think that, like I said earlier in the podcast, that truly is the undercurrent of the Vision Lab. Now I wholeheartedly believe in the growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. I think that people need to evaluate and do some self-inventory to understand where they are against where they want to go, and most importantly, the gap that exists between that. And then what the show does is provide you realistic steps if you're listening, right? To listen to these personal anecdotes, apply those to your life so that you can propel it in the direction that you want to go. However, with that being said, I think that when we talk about middle lessons, what do we need to be saying to people that are of our own ilk, right? That are of our own generation, or maybe slightly above? If I'm 55, I can still manifest the life that I want to live. So what value can we provide to those individuals? Let's go. That's going to be the part 2, bro.
Mm-hmm. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm embarrassed. I'm going to tell you something embarrassing, but it'll explain. So I sleep with earbuds every night. This is the embarrassing part. They're not earbuds. It's a headband. It's a Bluetooth headband that goes around my head like a ski headband. It's got these flat, like over the ear kind of speakers.
So you have your earbuds in with the headband around it, or
the headband has
the
it's a Bluetooth headband.
Okay.
So you push the button in the middle, and it connects to Bluetooth, and this is volume up, and this is volume down.
It's comfortable?
It's comfortable.
I'm in on that. I'm in on that, bro.
I listen to stuff every night, all night long. It's just playing all night long. And I listen to, there's a great podcast called Modern Wisdom. There's a great podcast called The Art of Manliness. I listen to Rogan. I listen to you guys. I listen to stuff all night long. There was an episode of The Art of Manliness where a guest was on there making a case for the first half of your life being basically kind of the structure in the box that is the formation of your life. Like if your life is a house, it is the structure and the framing and the siding of the house. And the second half of your life is all the stuff that you put inside of it.
Your finish outs.
No, your furniture, your fixtures.
Your fixtures and furniture, but it's the heart and the soul and the life. It's the family. It's all the stuff that's meaningful.
Sure. Okay, I'm with you on that.
So you spend the first half of your life building the thing, and you spend the second half of your life kind of living in the thing that you've built. And the case that he was making is that your pivot at Middlescence, the pivot that you make is when you start doing the things that you do, not necessarily just for money or for building your empire anymore, but for your family, for giving back, for it's not for the conquest anymore.
It's for the legacy?
It's for the legacy. It's for all of those things that, man, at some point, unless you have your own business, like you age out of corporate.
Yeah.
We know that.
At some point, I'm not saying that the conquest is ever over, right? Because as men, like there's always that desire that we want to achieve the next thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But at some point, society and culture is going to allow you to be what it's going to allow you to be, right? And we fight against that, but we make a pivot at some point, and we have to start thinking about the things that are not just the next career move, the next rung on the job ladder, the next deal. There's a case to be made for at Middlescence making that pivot and starting to think about legacy, starting to think about how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your family in a way that's not just providing for them, right? And so I think that there's something to Middlescence when we make that turn. It's like the turn that you make at the 9th hole. The game's not over, right? When you go to the 10th hole, it's not over, but you're on the back 9 now.
Yeah. And are you a golfer?
What's that?
Are you a golfer?
I like to golf.
Okay. We need to play. But no, you get a chance to look at your scorecard.
You do.
And you understand.
Well, and you only got so much energy. 18 holes is a long game.
Well, you certainly understand, where you want to be. And turn at the turn, since we're using a golf analogy, you get a chance to look at your scorecard. And by proxy, you can deduce I'm either on pace, ahead of pace,
right,
or below.
Right.
Adjustments need to be made.
Yep.
Right? Or I need to continue doing what I'm doing.
I start shortening up my swing.
Yeah. Your pivots are taking place at this particular juncture in our lives.
Yep.
And then it becomes about the execution.
Yep.
But I think a lot of times we focus so much on the execution, which is a vital part of the whole thing.
Yep.
Like that's the bottom of the funnel, right? But we also need to make sure that we are taking the lessons that we've learned and applying those so that we don't go below what we did on the front 9.
Right.
Right? And that we have an opportunity to improve on the back 9.
Yep.
Right? I think that's where a lot of us are at this middle age or middlescence phase or stage in our life, is that as you start to do the self-inventory and evaluate where you are on your front 9, what can I do to improve for the next 40 years of my life, right? And so we should really give credence to providing content around that.
I want to put something out that might be a little bit controversial. I'm interested in your thoughts.
I love
on this.
controversial.
So we grew up in America, right? We grew up in the land of opportunity. We grew up in a place where we just think that we're going to grow and grow and grow and grow all the way until we die, right? We grow up as men, gaining some opportunities, getting into corporate, making great incomes, and we think we're just going to stay there forever. Yep. I think that there is a case to be made for us to start thinking about the pivot before we have to pivot. I think that there's a case to be made for people that are in college right now or early on in their careers right now. Get ready. By 45, 46, 48, you better have your pivot already. And your pivot might not be like being a corporate killer until you die. It's probably not going to happen. What is your pivot before you get there?
That what you're saying,
that is Middlescence.
But that's wisdom.
Yeah.
Because let's rewind the clock 28 years ago. Yeah. 26 years ago, you're 22 years old.
Yep.
Or 24 years old, whatever it is, right? Like if you were to say, hey, Wes, work your ass off for the next 16 to 20 years, but understand that after that, you're going to have to start to pivot. Yep. Like this is the guidance and wisdom that we should be providing to generations behind us. So I think that this is so. I am like hella intrigued with this concept. Like you're giving me new life.
Yep.
And you're giving the Vision Lab new life, because I think that needs to be the direction that we go.
It's funny that you say that. I read an article probably 4 or 5 years ago. I just read all the time.
When do you work, bro?
Oh, we work.
He reads all the time.
We work.
And he's listening to
all-
podcasts all the time.
It's all growth mindset.
Yeah.
It's all growth mindset.
It's tongue in
like I
cheek.
literally am like a Tom Brady approach to life, man. I read this article probably 3 or 4 years ago that I'll never forget. That basically said like if you don't already have like a side hustle or like a pivot situation formulated by the time you're 35, you likely will not. Right. So I've always had a side hustle or two, even when I was in corporate. And I didn't realize, I saw my dad get laid off at 55 years old and never work professionally again. Healthy, strong, smart, never worked professionally again. And that scared me, man.
Yeah.
I was working out in New York at that time for a great company in telecom during the .com era. And I'm sending checks home to my parents. Yeah, that scared me. And so that was really, I mean, on top of the growth mindset that I've just felt like was part of the DNA was corporate will never fire me. I will fire corporate.
Good for you.
Mo
knows my feeling on corporate.
I've heard the expression "fire my boss." As you say, if you died on Wednesday, they'll have your job posting up before your obituary is ready.
Right,
100%.
My wife and I, we've been married 20 years. When we first got married, we talked about building the F-off fund.
Come on, Hex.
Right from the beginning. And the F-off fund was not anything to be disrespectful. The F-off fund was when the employer comes to you and asks you to do something that you don't think is feasible, like grow a slow growth portion of the business at double digits this year, or
I want you to turn to Titanic.
Or don't want to pay you your value,
or it's not beyond them to ask you something to do something that's borderline legal. So
we were at a place like that.
The whole thing was we need to have a fund in place so that I can at least have a conversation with my boss and not just immediately just swallow that and be like, yes, sir. That was the whole thing from the beginning. And that's kind of what started the side hustle of real estate. And I know for sure that by 55 years old, corporate wants you out unless you're a rainmaker, man.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a rainmaker or you've got enough of a
enough cachet
customer following that your customers will leave with you, you got a little bit of leverage there. But otherwise, man, you better have something going on the side, in my opinion. I'm not right about it.
So let me ask you this, since we are kind of anchored on this Middlescence thing. Let's say I'm 44, 45 years old. I hear this episode. I'm inspired by your words. Mm-hmm. But I don't have an FU fund or anything like that ready to go. Let's put this into practicality in layman's terms. What advice do you have for those individuals that want to be prepared by the time that they're 55?
Yep.
So you got a 10 to 12 year run.
Don't be too proud.
Okay.
Do not forsake the day of small beginnings. Do something, right? So start a little side hustle. Start networking. Dig your well before you need water.
Ooh.
Right?
That's so good. That is so good.
There's nothing that should keep. I saw a corporate executive, man, a big timer at a great company, a Fortune 500 company that I used to work at, get let go. This was a guy I thought couldn't be touched.
Yeah.
And we had a going away party for him. And his name was Mike. I'll not release the last name. I said, Mike, what are you going to do, man? Because this was it wasn't too much after I saw my dad get let go. And he said, I have a cabin up in this area on a lake, cottage, whatever you want to call it. Nice house. I've always thought about, doing cabin preparations for other people up in the area so that their cabin would be ready to go when they get there. Boat's already in the water, cabin's clean, lights are on, just a little thing like that. Now, what was interesting is he got picked up by a different division in the same company within like 3 or 4 weeks. So I don't know if he ever executed on that.
Somebody saw his name come across the internal job board and was like, "Oh, let me get him now."
Yeah, that probably happened.
Like, wait a minute, that guy's available?
The point of the matter
find a
is
spot for
that,
him.
like, he wasn't too proud. This was in 2007. He said, I also I bought a Toyota Supra, 1980s Toyota Supra a while back that I don't get to drive enough and that I'd like to mess around with. He wasn't too proud, man. This guy was big time. Like, I know what he made because I was in finance and I used to have to budget for the entire division. And this guy was prepared to take that step back. He probably had an F-off fund. Probably. But I think the point of the matter is, like, what would keep a middle-aged person from bartending?
Pride.
I saw another guy get laid off, a guy that I freaking loved. He was a plant manager at a company that I worked for here in Dallas. And unexpectedly, kids in college, this guy started driving limousines. Right? And I'm not saying that's a career, and I'm also not saying that's not a career. But he wasn't too proud. And he ended up finding his way back into corporate, and he was well qualified for it. But he was without a corporate job for 18 months or so. So anyway, I guess the point of the matter is, like, how do we give people some thoughts? Like, you can't be too big ever.
One of the things that I hear you say, without saying it, is that we need to learn how to put our blinders on.
Yeah.
And not look to the right or to the left.
Not look at.
It doesn't matter that Bob is the same age as you,
Yep.
and financially maybe ahead of you or behind you. Doesn't matter. Focus on you and your inputs, right? And if the time is warranting you to do a side hustle, pick up a job as a limousine driver at 45, do what you got to do to bridge the gap.
Might not even be a bad idea to be doing what you need to do on the weekends, because when that time comes, you should be digging your well before you need that water.
That's so good. That's so good.
And I think we have reached a part where it's time to land the plane. So, you being a fan of the show, we will ask you. There is a imaginary round table. You get a seat, and there are 5 other seats at the table. Dead or alive, who do you want at your table? The only stipulation, obviously, being that you can't have God or Jesus at your table because that's too easy.
Okay. Fair enough. This one's almost too easy, too, but I'm going to put it out there because this is real, and I wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. My wife is one of the finest people that I know, all the way around, like, could absolutely be an executive. She was in the Wall Street Journal, never went to business school ever. Like, I've never been in the Wall Street Journal. She has a way, her intellect and her EQ are just both off the charts. But when you sit there and talk to her, you just feel like you're just talking to the girl next door. Fantastic. So she would be at my table for sure.
Shout out to wifey.
That's one.
There is one, there's one celebrity that when he passed, it hurt me. I was hurt. And I'm not the dude that gets starstruck. I'm not. I've met celebrities before. They put their pants on one leg at a time, just like I do.
100%.
When Anthony Bourdain died, I was like,
yeah,
this dude, man.
I'm back.
Yeah. I loved that guy. And I don't believe in everything he believes in. Like he was, I think it's pretty safe to say, pretty much he was, I don't want to say this word. I'm going to come up with a different word for it.
Now I'm curious what that word is.
He was a hedonist, for sure.
Oh, okay.
For sure.
It's a safe way
in
of
the
putting
classic sense of the word. So, and I don't believe in
Ludacris song just popped in my head.
Yeah. But his approach, like, to life, sitting down and talking with people and just eating whatever was on the table. Like, I was a dude that I would love to have had a meal with.
That's good. Would he be your chef for that? For your
I wouldn't
table?
make him cook, man.
Okay.
If he wanted to cook, I'd love for him to cook. But chefs that do that all the time, I can't ask that.
Let's be honest. Those chefs aren't cooking anymore.
That's true. Most of them are just, they're the face of a place. It's like
Behind.
It's like having a famous plumber come over and fix your plumbing. Like, I'd never ask that dude.
Just dispatching somebody.
I don't know a famous plumber.
Joe.
So, my wife.
Super Mario.
Shout out to Adam behind the camera.
So my wife, Anthony Bourdain, I'd love to have a conversation with Joe Rogan. The way that he can talk to some of the steepest intellectuals in the world about some of the most far-flung topics, and then also sit down and just get hammered with his boys on a microphone.
Go for 3 hours.
For 3 hours. I'd love to have a conversation with him.
That's 3.
I have a best friend from childhood, Jason Tucker, that I've known since we both had a crush on the same girl, Carrie Whitaker. I was in 3rd grade. He was in 4th.
You put everybody out there.
He was in 4th grade, and she came and went, of course. But man, he's been just an absolute sounding board for the better part of 40 years. So he'd be at the table for sure. That's 4. I'd have the 20-year-old version of my daughter at the table. She's 13 right now. She's 13, and I want to talk about this for a minute if we just have a minute. I think you guys are doing the same thing. That's what I pick up. But I'm raising a person right now that I expect to be functional as an adult when she's 18, 19, 20 years old. And I'm not saying that I have a 13-year-old that I'm trying to treat like a 20-year-old, because I'm not. I have a 13-year-old that I'm holding responsible and accountable for doing those things that she's capable of doing at 13. So I can't wait to see the kind of person that she turns out to be. And if I could take a shortcut and have her at the table tonight, her 20-year-old version of herself, so that I could see what I'm doing right or what I'm not doing right, man, I'll pay extra for that.
I'm just curious, why 20? Was that an arbitrary number?
No. 20 years old was the first time that when I woke up at 20 years old, I felt different. It was the first birthday that I can remember that when I woke up, I felt different. And I had this thought, when I was 19, I had this thought, someday will I be able to make a living based on that which my hand and my mind can do? Will I be able to pay for myself, make a way? And when I woke up at 20 years old, I felt different. I wasn't a teenager anymore.
You didn't party that night?
Not at 20. Nope.
He's a better man than me.
So,
yeah,
20-year-old version of my daughter, that's who would be at the table.
So we had Anthony Bourdain, your wife, your daughter, Jason. Who was the fifth one?
Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan.
It's a good table.
Good
It'll be
table.
a
Good table.
You know, I know you are a fan of the show. And first of all, before we land the plane, real quickly, how can our visionaries, get in contact with you? How can they follow you? Drop your social media handles, website, anything like that.
You might be disappointed to know how little social media interaction I have.
This is the part
I'm
I
actually
love
not
about
surprised.
him. This is the
I'm
part where
very not surprised.
we are really simpatico. Like, we just believe in getting it done. Like, well, all the fluff, whatever. No, let's just get this done.
So our website is Atwell's Home Investors. Atwell's Home Investors. At the well, like what you drink out of. Atwell's Home, like the thing you live in. Investors, like the return that you expect when you invest money.
Yes.
AtwellsHomeInvestors.com. It gives people a sense of who we are and what we do. And through that, if people wanted to get in touch, we would definitely connect.
Let me say this, though. So he and I see a lot of things the same way. For those listening, I love how he said it. He's like, Ryan, when people want to feel like warm and fuzzy and just want to shoot the bull, they talk to my partner, Jeff. When you want to do business, you call me. And there is a difference. Like I said, the yin and yang between he and Jeff is very similar to our yin and yang. And it's cool to see like Jeff's influence rubbing off on him versus like our influences rubbing off on each other. Like I texted you the other day, we have officially, this one thing we're working on, I said we have officially entered the clown show. He and I get along, and because we were about, okay, like, let's get it done versus all the other ancillary stuff. Like, that's cool, but like, we are supremely focused on getting something done, and then we can have fun afterwards.
We'll talk offline about who's who in our dynamic.
Indeed.
There's a scenario
Oh,
where...
you are very much him. You are very much him.
There's a scenario... I think I'm in my pivot right now, and there is a scenario where I will be probably pivoting from being that guy that gets the things done to being more of the guy that is engaging, fun to be around, do a deal if we decide to or not if we don't. I think you reach a
Just
point.
don't lose that part of yourself, because that's who I am.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
As we land the plane, I know that you are a fan of the show. So I'll give you a softball, layup, alley-oop. What is a long-term vision for one Wes Atwell?
Great question. So, man, this is going to sound crazy. If you would have told me when I was graduating from business school that I would reach a point in my life where I wouldn't have to work every day, where I'd have a pool guy and a yard guy and a cleaning lady, where my wife would drive the car that she went and picked out, I would have thought I hit the lottery. Like at some point, like I hit it. Somehow I made it. And I don't want to give anybody the wrong impression that I have everything that I've ever wanted, but I'm getting to a place where I'm struggling to find bucket list items. I'm getting to a place where I'm struggling to figure out what the next thing is, and very much in a place of Middlescence, like what is the next thing, and what is the pivot. And I think that's the best way I can answer that question. There is a next act. I know that there's a next act. We're working on something really big right now, like really big right now. And if it goes the way I anticipate that it will go, that is the pivot, and it is going to free up a lot of my time. And then I don't know what after that.
We talked about it this one. Remember we talked about this, like to where you're like, if I get that amount, then I can get to a point where I don't I can get off the grid and I don't have to be bothered with anybody.
That might be the ultimate, like just doing great. If you look at our website that I already gave you, our website is doing good deals with great people. And if I get to a place where I'm only doing the deals that I want to do with really fine people, I really feel like I would have arrived. We're still doing some deals now with people we might not if we didn't have to.
Well, I'm sure that's got a short shelf life.
Yeah.
So I commend you and obviously wish you and the business a lot of success. As a fan of the show, we always talk about our magical time machine, but I'm not going to be that easy on you today. What books are you reading right now or listening to?
I love that. I literally just put out a LinkedIn post yesterday or the day before. So there were 3 books. One book that I read in my 20s that changed the way I thought about everything. One book that I read in my 30s that changed the way I thought about people. And one book I read a week ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the book that I read in my 20s, early 20s, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Shout out to Robert Kiyosaki.
There it is. That changed the way that I thought about everything. Multiple streams of income, having a business instead of being employed, all of those things. Profound for me at that time. It was the right book at the right time. The next one was How to Win Friends and Influence People, that I read in my 30s.
Stephen Covey, excuse me.
Yep. And then the most recent one that I literally just read was 365 Thank Yous. John Kralik, if I remember correctly. And man, what a great story about a guy in Middlescence who literally graduated from one of the top law schools in the country, worked for a great law firm for 10 years, moved on to work for a great, work in corporate law for a great corporation for 10 years, hangs his own shingle. 7 years in, he's divorced for a second time. His law practice is failing. And this is 2007 that he's writing about. So his practice was largely helping mortgage companies. And so he's writing all of this right before the big meltdown in 2008, 2009. And he's basically lost everything. He's estranged from his kids. His practice is upside down. He's living in a shabby apartment somewhere in Pasadena, California, and he discovered gratitude and decided for 1 full year he was going to write a thank you every day, 1 thank you per day. And I won't tell you how the book goes or how it ends. I will not.
I'm grateful.
Gratitude, I can tell you, changed everything for him. And I'm at a place right now where that one hit me, and it will stick with me. 365 thank yous.
I'm picking that up tonight.
Yeah.
I'm picking that up tonight.
I'll drop it off for you.
Really?
I will.
His office is not far from here.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Grateful. That's we'll talk about that a little bit offline, but I as we've had the opportunity to really connect tonight, this has been indelible for me, and I hope and pray, visionaries, that you guys have had an opportunity to listen to what Wes has talked about. This episode was packed full of nuggets. Just remember, each one of our guests are dropping nuggets of wisdom on the trail of life. Ultimately, it's up to you to pick them up.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ryan Mosley. He is Ryan Cuffey. Thank you to our guest, Mr. Wes Atwood of Atwell's Home Investors. And we'll see you guys next time. Another great episode of the Vision Lab podcast.
Blessings.